you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This is another of our popular Listener's Choice interviews, which we're playing over the weekend. We've chosen the most popular interviews for you to select the Listener's Choice winner. If you're not sure how the Listener's Choice competition works, have a look at horsechats.com/choice for the rules and the leaderboard. Today's chat's been brought to you by International Horse College. International Horse College's motto is people safety and horse welfare, and you'll find this message throughout our chats. Registered Training Organisation number 31352. Now, today's guest is a guest that we've had on before. I'm sure that you would have found her first chat interesting. Tanja Mitton, and she's been very busy. She's been travelling to Germany. She's been teaching over there. She's been teaching in Tasmania, Victoria, and in between all of that, she's also written a book. So we're going to talk to her about her book today and also 10 tips on how to improve your seat and influence when riding your horse. How are you, Tanja?
I'm very well, Glenys. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Yeah, very good to talk to you too. And I know you've been busy. You've just sort of got off teaching a lesson now. So tell us a little bit about why you've written this book, because you go out and do clinics. Is it as a backup to what you teach, or have you been asked about it? I mean, what inspired you? What brought this on?
It's definitely as a backup and as a reference for riders that they can go to the book and, read all the things we've done in the clinic. Because generally I do 2-day clinics and, we cover quite a lot of content there in terms of the rider position and how we influence our horses. So it can often be quite overwhelming after 2 days. And that's basically where the book comes in, and how it has developed is so that riders can get back to the book, reread a lot of the things we've gone through in the clinic and take their time in working through that.
All right. Now, I know that you place a lot of emphasis on the breathing. So breathing to relax yourself, relax your horse. And, you talk about when you're tense, your body's tense, but can you go into a bit more detail here and talk about breathing, talk about relaxation, talk about, the reflection and getting your body out of that tense mode?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the breathing is one of the most crucial things when it comes to riding. And because breathing is, so normal and so natural to us, and we do it all day, every day, we often don't pay enough attention to the breathing. So every lesson, every clinic, I start off with the breathing. And first of all, I want to make riders aware of their breathing. And when I say the awareness of the breathing, in our, let's call it our modern day living, we are so much under stress and so much under, time pressure, performance pressure. The first thing that happens with that is that our breathing changes. And most people now tend to breathe shallow, which means that they take far bigger breaths in than out. And that creates a huge amount of tension within the body. So, what I see so commonly is that riders are very tense through the jaw. And, you might have heard that as well, that, often riders sort of say, gosh, I go to a competition and I get these beautiful photos back and I've got like this really...
Yes, intense look, yes. Horse is going beautiful, yeah.
Absolutely. And that's often, the first sign of having shallow breathing because the jaw becomes very tense. That tension then flows on through the neck, through the shoulders. That affects our arms and therefore the contact we have to the bit. But also the tension comes down through the rest of the body, often creating a hollowness in the lower back a tension and a tightness in the hips, and that has a huge blocking effect on the horse's body, particularly the rib cage. So, what I get riders to do is to focus on the breath out.
Okay. Yep.
That becomes really important. And I generally start off asking riders to just let go of a sigh. And, the sigh I call like your Friday afternoon, 5 o'clock wine time moment.
Yeah. Okay.
Most of us can relate to that, where we go,
Sure.
oh, thank God the week is over, and we start to relax.
Yes, and the way you've explained it with the breathing there, it's not just relaxing, it's going right through your whole body. So I can see the reference there. Now, we talk about engaging the core. Now, we hear that a lot, like your core to help with your riding, but the inner core and the outer core. Tell us the difference and which one we need when we're riding.
Sure. As you said so rightly, like we talk a lot about the core, and generally we just mention core. So most riders, when you talk about the core, they go to the outer core muscles, so the abdominal muscles, and that's the ones we use for strength exercises and, for example, for sit-ups. But that's not the core we want to use predominantly when riding. So the inner core, which is more the pelvic floor muscle, and that is sort of located in the area below your belly button. So the reason for using the inner core is that we want to bring the pelvis back into a rotation that relaxes the lower back and lifts the pubic bone slightly up.
Okay, yep.
And that becomes really important. So those inner core muscles are a lot more subtle when we engage them than the outer core muscles. Because again, when you think of your breathing, what do you generally do when you do sit-ups? We start holding our breath.
Yep.
And we do crunches.
Yep.
Where when we lift the pubic bone up and engage those inner core muscles, we do that on an outward breath. So that's, for example, where the martial arts use a lot of inner core muscles to stabilize and balance their bodies. And that's all done on an outward breath.
Okay. Now, another thing that, we talk about relaxing the lower back, but I know that the hollow lower back is not good. Talk to us as you usually do, because you've got so much depth of knowledge here. It's not just a bit of a throwaway line about relaxing your lower back. Tell us in depth why we need to relax our lower back and how that can affect our riding.
Well, one of the main reasons to relax the lower back is because that's directly connected to our hips and our pelvis position. So when the lower back is hollow, it means that the pubic bone has tipped down and the rider is in a position where they have, what we commonly use, a duck back. So,
yes.
The pelvis kind of sticks out at the back, the bum sticks out the back, and we get tipped forward. So when we engage that lower or inner core muscle and that lifts the pubic bone up, you automatically see a change in the pelvis position. So the pelvis goes from the extension that happens when we've got a duck back to a rotation. So the pelvis comes kind of underneath you, and that relaxes the lower back and takes the hollowness out of the lower back.
Okay.
And so then the pelvis is more open and more relaxed, and we can follow the horse's movement and go with the swing of the horse's back.
All right. Now, can you talk about the pelvic being the connection point between the horse and rider, but what if the rider's stiff and tight? How does that affect the horse?
Well, we block the horse. When we sort of consider that we're sitting on the horse's rib cage, Now, I often sort of, explain it to riders in a way that I say to them, like, if you have a jumping vest on or if you wear a really tight jacket, it restricts your breathing and it makes you feel tense.
Mm-hmm.
And often the first thing you do when you take that jumping vest off is you let go of a big sigh because you expand your rib cage and you feel like you can actually start to move again. Now, the same thing happens when we restrict the horse's rib cage. The first thing, when our thighs get really tight and we block that natural side-to-side swing of the rib cage,
mm-hmm.
like you can see when you watch a horse walk or trot away from you that the rib cage moves from side to side. Now, the tighter we are, the more we restrict and block that movement. And so that has an effect on the horse's posture as well as the movement. And, in our riding and training, we talk a lot about top line.
Yes.
Top line means, that the back becomes stronger. Now, the back can only become stronger when the horse is using his abdominal muscles to lift up through the rib cage and to relax the neck as it lifts the back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, those are things we work on in our groundwork, in specific lunging exercises. And in the riding and in the training, I find that we don't pay enough attention to how much the rider's seat actually affects the way that the horse can move his body, particularly the back.
Okay. Now, what about the thighs? How should they be on the horse?
The thighs need to be soft and non-restricting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I give lessons, I talk about the thigh being loose. Now, loose is a slight over-exaggeration. The reason I talk about the thigh being loose and open is because I found that the majority of riders are too tight. And when they think of their thigh being sort of relaxed and soft, it's still way too tight.
Okay.
So I find I often have to take it to the extreme and say to riders, just feel what it's like when you actually roll the knee off the saddle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, eventually, I don't want riders to ride around rolling the knee off, but sometimes we need to go to that extreme for riders to even feel, how tight they are or how much they grip.
Yes, I understand that.
So good exercises are to simply, when you sit on your horse, is to roll the knees off. It's to lift the thighs off the saddle and see how much you can rotate your hips open and how much you can actually lift your thighs momentarily off the saddle that there's a little bit of a gap.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What about, just going down a bit further, the calf? How should the calf be on the horse?
Well, you'll find that if the thigh is tight, automatically the knee rolls in and then the calf comes off the horse. Mm-hmm. And a lot of riders complain that their lower leg flaps around and is unsteady. And that's where that comes from because they're too tight in the thigh. So when the thigh has opened and relaxed, your calf will automatically connect to the side of the horse. And we then have the calf in a position where the horse can feel the calf. We are in constant kind of communication, if you like. But we can also use the calf to encourage the horse to use their abdominal muscles. And now, because the thigh is softer, we encourage the horses to use those abdominal muscles to lift up through the back and lifting the rib cage, which, as we said before, is then starting to develop that top line that we look for.
If you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now, have a look, horsechats.com. So we've talked about the pelvis, the thighs, the calf. What about the feet or the toes? I mean, where do the toes fit in line with the ball of the foot? Where should it be?
Well, the toe needs to be, again, slightly out. Slightly out means that you can feel the full stirrup with the ball of your foot. Mm-hmm. Because, I think we all have memories from, way back when we've been told, keep your toes straight.
Yes, now, or toes in. Look. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So what happens when you bring your toes straight or in, if you feel the stirrup, you'll notice that you've rolled on the outside of your foot and the inside of your foot in the stirrup has actually come off the stirrup, so it's lifted up. Now, in that position, you're going to start to do some damage to your ankle at some point, mm-hmm. because that creates a whole heap of tension on the outside of your ankle. Plus, in that position, your calf becomes very ineffective because there is no stability in the calf due to that rotation of the ankle. And you find that your leg probably starts to flap around again.
Okay.
So bring the foot slightly out. Let the toes come slightly out. And you're in the correct position when you feel the full stirrup bar underneath the whole bottom of your foot, the ball of your foot.
Yep. Okay. What about the upper body? What about, where should the head be? Where should the shoulders be?
Well, the head is one of those areas that we now see a lot more positional issues since we've all got, mobile phones and we work on computers.
Yes.
Because now, in particular in our kids and teenagers, we see more and more a forward head position. And, we all know what it's like when we look down, when the head comes forward, it tips the upper body forward. The head weighs approximately 7 kilos. That's a lot. And if that head is too far forward, it throws out your whole balance, tips you forward, blocks the pelvis, affects the whole rest of the body again.
Yeah.
So the head needs to be above your shoulders. And an easy exercise that you can do with that is if you bring your chin back to the point where you make a double chin, so bring your head back with your chin tucked in as far as you can, and you feel tension in the back of the neck then. Then do the opposite and stretch your head as far forward as you can, and you also feel tension in the neck. And then start to reduce those two movements until you find the perfect middle, the perfect balance in between.
Yeah.
And if you have a look, if you have a look in a mirror, you'll find that your head will start to sit above the shoulders, where the weight of your head is supported by your spine and by the body underneath it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like the way that you get people to exaggerate and then to feel, not just this is the way it's got to be, but exaggerate it, feel the tension, come back and then exaggerate it the other way and then, find yourself in the mirror. So it sort of gives people the opportunity to explore. So that's good. What about the eyes? Where should they be?
The eyes need to be, looking and focusing ahead. Mm-hmm. And again, the eye position has a lot to do with your head position. So, if you've been a rider, for our listeners, like if you've been a rider who's constantly being told in lessons and by your instructors, lift your eyes, look up, check where your head is first. Okay. The chances you might have a forward head position that then automatically draws your eyes down to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So when you correct your head position, you'll find that your eyes are automatically starting to focus more straight ahead where we want them to be.
Okay, good. We've sort of talked about the body, the leg, the upper body, the head. What about the hands, the arms, the hands? What can you tell us there that's going to make us, because it's all relevant. We're still talking about improving our seat and influence when we're riding the horse. But what about our arms and hands? What can you tell us there?
Look, they're really important because we communicate through the rein. Now, a lot of times riders, I see, again, talking about the two opposites, I see riders who either make a really tight fist, and as they make a really tight fist, they brace through the arm, they block through the arm, and they start pulling back because their elbow and shoulders get really tight. Or often the other extreme is that they have no closed fist at all and the hands are just open, and so they constantly lose the rein, or the horse constantly pulls the rein out of their hand.
Okay.
So again, we know we don't want either. We don't want to have a tight fist. We don't want to throw the rein away and have a totally open fist. What we want to do, so the critical part to not get pulley in the hand and ending up kind of having a tug of war and constantly pulling back, is to focus on your three smaller fingers. So your ring finger, your little finger, your ring finger, and the little one.
Yep.
So those three fingers, when they get tight, they affect the elbow and they start to pull back.
Okay.
What we want to do is we want to close those fingers around the rein, that we can feel the rein, but we have to be careful not to grip. Where you hold your contact is by pushing the thumb down onto the rein and pinning the rein between your thumb and your index finger. So for our listeners, you can do that, even without sitting on the horse. Just grip your three lower fingers and feel how that affects your elbow and how the whole arm then becomes tense and starts to pull back. And then if you relax those three fingers and you make a very soft, closed fist, but not putting pressure on it. So you just close your fingers and now take your thumb, place the thumb on top of the index finger and push the thumb down. So you feel that now your elbow and your shoulders are still soft and relaxed and you still have give in your arm.
Yep.
So now you can control the contact, but there is still a softening effect of the arm. And that's really the ideal way to have a contact to the rein.
Okay. I think, as usual, you don't just say do it, you explore it, not just explain it, you explore, try it this way, and then you'll see that this way works. Yeah.
So much about riding is about feel.
Yes.
And, I think we have to feel it and then we can relate to what it is we have to do far better than just being told, do this and do that. And we don't develop the feel for it.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about your book, Tanja. Then what's the name of your book?
The book is called It Takes Two to Tango.
That's good. Good. It's a good book.
Yeah.
Good name, great name. Now, because a lot of this information is in the book, and if people would like to, it's great to listen, it's great to look over our notes, but our notes are anywhere near in depth as, and even what you've talked about today, you've given us a lot of information and a fair bit of depth, but I think to purchase this book, how can they do it the best? What's the best way? If you've got a website or Amazon, or how can they get one?
Look, the best way is through my website, which is tanjamitten.com. The book is on Amazon as well, but through the website, particularly in Australia, you get it quicker.
And the other thing is too, those details will be on your page on Horse Chats, which will be horsechats.com. Just go to horsechats.com and I think search for Tanja, or just search it's Tanja or Mitton, and we'll be able to give you the link then to purchase that book. That's really good. I think, lots of information that you've given us, and there's so much more that you've got to give us. So I hope to see you again soon. And for those people that are purchasing the book, I'm sure that you'll enjoy it. I'm sure that you'll enjoy all the information that Tanja's given you within the podcast, but even more so within the book. So thank you, Tanja. Thanks for coming today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
If you've enjoyed this chat, then please comment, rate and subscribe. If you'd like any changes or recommendations for guests, then please contact us through horsechats.com. And while you're online, have a look at the government-accredited courses at internationalhorsecollege.com. Registered Training Organisation 31352.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.